guys I love about Amazon is when I got back, I didn't feel like it was Monday coming back to my job where I have to go drive in and back to the regular life. I was excited to get back. The whole airplane ride, I didn't sleep. I just wrote and filled out pages and pages of ideas and plans and things we want to do over the next several months. And we're here, and this is what we love to do. So great to see everybody. Great to see you guys.
I feel like I should be speaking in Spanish to you now, man.
Oh, man. I am working on it. I'm getting better, mejor. I'm working on it, especially when we go to Guatemala. All right. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that, guys. So great to see you guys. So today we're going to talk about how to win the buy box. I'm going to walk you through specifically a slideshow, and Alan and Saad and I are going to teach you guys how to do this. Now, keep in mind, there is no guarantee that we can make sure you win the buy box. Amazon has control over that. But we're going to share with you strategies that we've been using that have helped literally thousands of sellers to win the buy box back. If you don't have the buy box, you will lose over 95% of your sales. It's a big deal. And there's such a thing as losing the buy box to yourself. Now, that is only relevant to private label, but we're going to explain it so you can compare and understand the differences, because this is a common question that comes up a lot. And guys, I'm going to begin just by sharing my screen, and we're just going to jump right in. And then after we teach this, we're going to open it up for live Q&A for you guys as well. All right, let me know. Can you see my screen okay, Saad and Alan?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay. All right, so guys, we're going to give you 4 steps on winning the buy box. And the first thing we're going to do is explain what is it. Look at the right side. See that little button that says add to cart? That means that BGT has the buy box. In other words, if I go to their listing and I click on add to cart, they're going to get the sale because I'm buying it from their listing. You want that buy box. That's very, very important. There are times where you won't have it, but the more you have it, the more successful your arbitrage business is going to be. Now, how do I know if I lost the buy box? It'll say something like this: see all buying options. Look at this little button over here. So I have to actually go through an extra step. I have to click on that to see all the other people selling on this listing. And you can also see right here where it says 3 new from 1685 pounds. This is another way you can find that there are other sellers on the listing when you don't have the buy box. Now, here's the thing. Let's just say there's 15 people selling on that same listing. Only one of them, in most cases, will have that buy box. There are rare situations where sometimes none of them do. But what will happen is if they go to your listing, they're going to see add to cart. But if they add to cart, it's going to be another seller because it's one listing in Amazon's catalog, but there's multiple sellers selling on that listing. So what does it mean to lose the buy box to myself? Now, what I'm about to explain is only relevant directly to private label. This is not an issue when you're doing arbitrage, but we decided to put it in here to help you guys understand the differences. When you're selling an arbitrage, you're listing on a listing that's already in Amazon's catalog. And you can do that. And that is not considered hijacking. And we'll explain the difference between a hijacker and a reseller. But when you're selling your own listing, you build it out. You get your own UPC code from GS1. You get your own photos and the product details and the keywords, and you create all of that. There is such a thing as losing the buy box to yourself. If your price history is unstable, if your MSRP, which means manufacturer suggested retail price, is lower than your sale price, or check this one out, and a lot of people don't know this, if your online e-commerce store is priced significantly, emphasis on the word significant, lower than your Amazon store, and I should add that e-commerce website is very well indexed on Google, so it has good ranking, you can actually lose the add to cart button or the buy now button with no other seller on the listing. And the reason Amazon does this is their system automatically will do that if the system senses any kind of instability or what they may perceive as unfair. So for example, if the manufactured suggested retail price for a product is $20, but you're selling yours at $30, it seems like you're charging people too much. So they actually cause you to lose the buy box, which slows down your sales. It's almost like being penalized because your price is unfair. That's how Amazon's system looks at it. And you can control this, guys. When you go into the other details tab of your listing, you can control what that MSRP says. Always make sure that anytime you're selling your listing, it is always a lower price than the MSRP. Now, how do I know if someone else is selling on the same listing? It's very simple. Let's look at this listing as an example. See right here where it says new 8 from this price, that's the starting price. This is how you know other people are selling on the same listing. Now, if you're doing retail arbitrage, that is normal. That's what you're going to do. I was talking to Alan this morning. One of the most common questions that have been asked in these live shows is, do I need to create my own listing when doing retail arbitrage? You do not. Or online arbitrage. You do not. You're going to list on a listing that's already in Amazon. It saves you a lot of time and a lot of work and allows you to generate capital very quickly. On the other hand, if you are doing private label where you're building out your own listing, then yes, this is your own listing. You don't want anyone else selling on that listing because it's your brand and you're protecting it. And there are certain rights that you have in order to do that. So if I go right here and I see new 8, this tells me there are 8 other sellers selling this product on this listing, even though Supernon has the buy box, the add to cart, the buy now buttons. What is the difference between a hijacker and a reseller? This question is so key, you guys, because people get confused about it. A hijacker is someone who sells off of your own branded listing. They're feeding off of your work. Often the product they're selling is not the same as yours. And if you do not carefully brand and differentiate your product, they actually might be considered another legitimate reseller by Amazon. So if you're not building a brand, if you're not really focused on differentiating, it's almost like you are creating arbitrage competition for yourself. That's what a hijacker is. So a hijacker is someone who latches onto your listing and they're trying to sell something even though it's your brand, your trademark, your patent, your copyright, whatever it is you did to differentiate it. And oftentimes what they're selling is an inferior product. It is not the actual same product. This is why we warn people, don't go to Alibaba, find a product and just start selling it. There's no reason Bobby McGee can't go find the same product and list it on your listing that you created, that you got ranking, and start making money just by dropping the price a few cents. And now he has the buy box and you don't. However, a reseller, and this is where arbitrage comes in, you guys, is someone who buys and resells a well-known, as a general rule of thumb, but ungated, emphasis on ungated to you, brand. In other words, Alan is ungated for certain brands that I'm not. I'm ungated for certain brands that Saad isn't, and Saad is ungated for certain brands that Alan isn't. So we all do arbitrage, but we have different, the brand, there's not like people keep thinking, oh, this brand is gated. Well, it's gated to certain people depending on your history, whether or not you paid a fee if that was required, whether or not you were approved for being able to sell in that brand. And sometimes Amazon will open and close the brand to various sellers based on various reasons, and sometimes they're unknown. But the idea here is a reseller is simply reselling a brand that they can sell. So the listing is already in Amazon's catalog. The brand owner can require a fee or even gate the brand so that no one else can sell it. But many brands still don't. And this is where arbitrageurs, man, did I spell that right? Arbitrageurs, I like that word, make a ton of money. It's finding those brands that are open where you can sell and resell on a listing that already has ranking. It saves you time and allows you to generate cash really fast. Is there anything you'd want to add to this at this point, Saad and Alan? And guys, feel free to jump in at any point if you need to.
No, we're good, man. It's very clear.
Okay. All right. We're going to go through this, guys, fairly quickly, and then we're going to open up for Q&A. We want to make sure you guys have the foundational building blocks of understanding this. Okay. Is it legal for someone else to resell my product? And again, this is really, whether you're private label or an arbitrage person, you need to understand this. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. If I buy your product on Amazon, I can resell it. There's no law against that. In fact, according to the United States first sale doctrine, if you look at the highlighted part, it means an individual who knowingly purchases a copy of a copyrighted work from the copyright holder receives, notice it was all copyrighted, the right to sell, display, or otherwise dispose of that particular copy, notwithstanding the interest of the copyright owner. In other words, irregardless of your patent, irregardless of your copyrights, irregardless of your trademark, you can resell someone else's product, but there is a limitation. The right to distribute ends, however, once the owner has sold that particular copy. since the first sale doctrine never protects a defendant who makes unauthorized reproductions of a copyrighted work. And notice they said reproductions. Look, if you're selling coconut oil and I go to Alibaba and I get a whole bunch of coconut oil and I'm copying what you're doing and you've differentiated and built out your own logo and brand, that is illegal. But if it is a generic product that's being sold in the marketplace and I go and find it and I resell it, that is a different scenario. That is now called arbitrage. In other words, there's a difference between reproducing someone's product versus buying and reselling someone's product. A hijacker reproduces, they copycat, and they try to make money off of your work. An arbitrage actually goes and buys it legitimately at a store. They spent money on it. They paid the money. They did the fee. They didn't reproduce it. They bought the product because it was at a discount, and they decided to resell it. And as long as there are no restrictions or gatings against reselling that product, you can legally do this doing retail arbitrage. I think this topic is probably one of the most confusing to people trying to figure out, can I resell this product or not? And guys, the fastest way to do it is if you're searching online or you're at a store, you get out your Amazon Seller app, you scan it, it'll immediately tell you, based on your Seller Central account, whether or not you are allowed to sell this product. Is there a restriction? Is the category gated? Is the brand gated? And remember, when you start, you're going to be gated from a lot of stuff, but there's a ton of stuff you can sell. So don't think, oh, Disney, Marvel, DC Comics, I'm going to go for all these big name brands. Go for less name brands and start making money. Then as you build up trust and a healthy account, Amazon begins to open up more categories and brands for you as you apply for them. And sometimes you will have to pay a fee in order to have that opened. I know for a while Disney was doing that. I don't know if they still are because I'm not selling Disney. We actually had to pay a fee. It was like a few $1,000s, and that's how they're like giving you the right to resell their product. Excuse me. What are the factors that impact my ability to win the buy box? All right, now let's say you have your products, you're ready to go, you're listing them on Amazon, and you want to make sure that you're going to win the buy box. Number one, and these are the high impact factors, your fulfillment method. If you are shipping in about 99% of every scenario, I would always recommend doing FBA, which stands for Fulfilled by Amazon, instead of FBM, which stands for Fulfilled by Merchant. Because if it's fulfilled by Amazon, the trust is greater. Therefore, your chances of having the buy box are much greater. It is very difficult to win the buy box if you are FBM, unless everyone else is FBM. There's a couple scenarios where you might consider doing this. There's one guy, he was at our summit and we worked with him, and this guy does over 49 million a year on Amazon. He sells furniture. Because his furniture is huge, it's actually profitable for him to ship it out from his own fulfillment centers instead of having Amazon do it. And because his prices are so insanely competitive, he still wins the buy box. But that is a rare situation. The second is your landed price. How much does that price actually cost? Third is shipping time. And of course, if you're doing FBA, this helps take care of itself because Amazon controls the shipping time for you. But if you have a really great turnaround shipping time, your chances of getting the buy box are greater. And finally, availability. When you run out of inventory, your chance of winning the buy box drops quickly. So staying in stock has a huge impact on keeping that buy box. Now I'm going to go through medium impact things that impact getting the buy box. Your order defect rate. What this means is how many orders do not actually process through. Your valid tracking rate. How many of your tracking, when you process the order, is a tracking number inserted? And again, this is hugely impacted if you're doing FBM. If you're doing FBA, Amazon takes care of that part for you. Your late shipment rate. You do not want to be late on shipment. Again, that's an FBM thing. You guys can already see FBA handles like the majority of these. On-time delivery, FBA again. Your feedback score. What is your feedback like? Okay, not talking about the review on the listing. We're talking about the feedback on your account. A product review and a seller feedback are two different things. There's no such thing as a seller review. When people do that, that's eBay. Okay, there's a seller review, and you can combine the review of the product and the seller on eBay. But on Amazon, it's different. Your product review is one thing. Your seller feedback is when someone gives you feedback on how you did and your communication and your shipment, how you treated them, those kinds of details. You want that to be very strong. Put in other words, great customer service will help you. Customer response time, Again, Amazon will handle the majority of those things, but there are times with FBA where you need to jump in and help. But for the most part, that is taken care of through FBA. And then, of course, your feedback count. These all have medium impact on your listing. If you have a product that has a high defection rate, if you have a product that is being returned at a high percentage, you need to figure out why, because that can cause you to lose money quickly. There are some products, you guys, that are just built in more risky. No matter what you do, you'll always have a higher return rate. So keep that in mind when you're shopping. Low impact. These do have an impact, but they have the least. Your inventory depth, your cancellation rate, and of course your refund rate. And again, this goes all the way back to the customers and the kind of service you're providing. Are there any others you would add to that, Saad or Alan?
No, but I was thinking about the customer response rate. I remember when I learned about that specific feature, I went back to see my customer response rate, and mine was, I think it was 9 hours. And I started, because before I used to only check, only respond like once a day. So, you can find out your response rate, and mine was like 9 hours. I brought down that response time to, I think, 3 hours after a few weeks, just responding a lot faster. Every time I get a message, I will respond faster. And that helps also increase your buy box retention. So that's very important. Even for FBA, I think that's one of the things that you can do as well. Just be more faster on responding your customers.
I'm really glad you mentioned that, because guys, if you just check once every 24 hours, let's just say you decided to check at 9 every morning. If you are 9:01 a.m. later the next time, that's going to have a huge impact, because you have to respond, you're supposed to, within 24 hours. And this is so interesting to hear. When Alan, you dropped the response time from 9 hours to 3, you actually found an increase. That's amazing. So that's incredible. We do it 3 times. So it's in the morning, it's in the middle of the day, and the evening. That way there's no and in that way, sometimes if our assistant doesn't know how to handle it, we can step in and say, here's what you need to do. That puts a delay on it. What if we're busy in meetings or working on something or talking to a supplier for the next 2 hours? We can't get back to them right away. So the more regularly it's checked, the less chance of it hurting you will happen. Okay, next thing, 4 steps to winning the buy box. All right, now here are the steps. You guys write these down. These should be super helpful to you, especially if you did lose that buy box. And guys, when you lose it, don't freak out. Don't feel like it's the end of the world. It's going to happen to you. It happens to every single Amazon seller I've ever met. And the funny one is when you lose it to yourself. We did discuss that a minute ago. First of all, keep your seller account in top performance. Simple as that. The customer response time that Alan was talking about, making sure that your product does not have a high defect rate, making sure that you are using excellent communication so that when you do get seller feedback, it's strong. Number 2, use the prime option, sell fulfilled by Amazon. Number 3, keep your price competitive. Now, you do not want to get into a price war. That is risky. Don't get into a price war, because what happens is you just lose out. You got to sell it, but you didn't make any money. In arbitrage, there are times where you just need to wait. You already have the how many extension in order to find out how many units your competitors have. So you're using that, okay? And you know their inventory. And let's just say your top competitor has 3. And then I'm talking about people on the listing, on Amazon's listing. We're talking about resellers. So you know, man, all they have to do is sell out 3, and then mine pops up to the top because I'm the next lowest price. So I just need to be patient, wait a few days, and I will get my money. But if you get into a panic like, oh no, I own the buy box, I got to drop the price now, what will happen is you will have the temporary fleeting satisfaction of a sale but no profit. So be patient and wait. And this is why when you're hunting arbitrage, you need to understand what is the inventory count of other people on the listing. And that's why in our training program, we talk about tools that show you how to do this quickly, much faster than the 999 method, which doesn't even work if the Amazon seller decides to hide their amount of inventory if they used a flat file to upload it in some cases. In other cases, they're able to manually do that from Seller Central. Number 4, build a brand. Now, this really leans more towards private label, but I wanted to touch on it so you guys understand the differences, and I'm going to briefly go over these. If you are serious about building a long-term business, third-party seller private label business, these are your ultimate defense mechanisms against losing the buy box. And assume you're going to probably lose it a few times until you get to a point where you really are brand gated. And when you're brain gated, it's a beautiful thing because you don't have to worry about any hijackers at all. The only people are resellers who bought your product. They decide to resell it used. They're protected by the United States government. They can do that. Don't freak out about it. If you see Amazon warehouse deals on your listing, that's what they're doing. Don't worry about it. Just keep going. You have the edge because your product is new. And the 4 steps to this is number 1, a copyright infringement claim. You can Google it. Just Google Amazon copyright infringement claim. You can put in an entire form. It has like 30 some questions you fill out to prove that they're infringing on your copyrights. And we highly recommend you buy the competitor's product first and take pictures so you can submit those to Amazon to prove that, yeah, they're selling an inferior product of yours or they're infringing on your copyright. You also get trademarked, which protects you. That'll take anywhere from 6 to 12 months, usually about 8. But that allows you to do the next step, which is brand registry. And finally, eventually, you can get brand gated. One thought, when you guys are arbitraging and you are selling, let's say you're trying to sell a product for Disney, they are brand gated. What that means is they got their brand registry taken care of. They're brand gated. You can't sell their brand unless you get approval. Well, you want the same thing if you're a third-party private label seller. All right, questions and answers, guys. Let me jump back over here so I can see you. And how can we help you? All right, I'm jumping to the chat here. All right, so let's go in reverse. Response rate says, Scott, is there a question on a product you are selling, or if a customer contacts you with a question? Alan, do you want to share your experience on this since you just spoke about it?
Repeat the question again. I didn't hear it.
The question is about customer response. Here, let me go back. The questions are coming in fast. Oh no, and it just scrolled up. Okay, here it is. He says, when we're talking about response rate, are we talking about a question on a product you're selling, or if a customer contacts you with a question and how soon you respond to that question?
No, usually it's going to be a customer contacting you directly through the listing. There's a way for the customer to contact the seller. So if you get a message on your seller central account, that's the ones that you want to respond as soon as possible. Sometimes there are questions about the product. Sometimes are questions about returns, things like that. You just have to respond fast and direct them to either Amazon or answer the question the best you can.
Yep. And the next question, does this apply to private label arbitrage? This is mostly arbitrage. So what we talk about on Wednesdays is arbitrage. Some of the things we want to discuss relate to private label because if you can compare the two, you'll understand it better. So yeah, so it really applies to both. Everything we shared applies to both, but our focus here is arbitrage. Alina, for how to get brand gated is a long process. So first of all, you get your trademark, then you get brand registered. 99 times out of 100, if your account is healthy, they will approve the brand registry. Give them up to 2 weeks to approve it. Usually it's just a few hours. Once that's approved, you're in the brand registry. That means you have control of your listing. Have you guys had a situation where the listing was changed without your approval? Well, brand registry gives you control. No one can do that after that time. To get brand gated, take your ASIN that a lot of people have hijacked a ton. Get the worst hijacked ASIN you can find, and you submit that to their team and give a very strong case why it should be gated because people are hijacking it. And you do it based on the ASIN. Once you do it on the ASIN, it's easier for Amazon to roll it out to the rest of your products, and then your brand ends up getting gated instead of just the ASIN. All right, we're peeking in, although our focus right now is retail arbitrage. That's awesome, right? Lynette and Jim. Even if you physically sent the goods on time, but okay, awesome, very good, Marion. I'm looking for questions. Explain the 99 in inventory. Sure. So, Saad, you want to take this one, brother?
Yes, for sure. So basically, if you would like to spy on your competitors and see how many units they have left. So let's say, for example, the product that you want to sell at $30, but the competitor front of you is selling them at 25, and you don't want to sell it at 25 because you will be making a little bit of money. So you can check their inventory and see how many units they have left. So the method that we used to do before is manually. Is basically take the product that they have, add it to cart, and when in the cart, you change the quantity from 1 to 999. Then it's going to tell you, no, they don't have 999, only available 3 units or 4 units. So depending on that answer, you will be able to make a decision whether you would like to wait for them. If they have few units, wait for them until they sell out, and then your turn comes and you sell at $30. Or if they have so many units, let's say 100, and you don't want to wait for 100 units to be sold, I would just lower my price and get out of it. And that's it. So that's the 99 method.
And you can use tools as well to automate that and to speed that up, guys. You don't have to use the method. And the times where the method doesn't work is if I, as an Amazon seller, decide to hide my inventory count. On some categories, I can do that from the listing. On others, I have to upload a flat file to do it. So it just won't work. That information becomes unavailable. There's a tool, and I believe, Alan, you said this is your favorite tool. HowManyExtension.com works really, really well for this, because then you can see the count of inventory. And most arbitrageurs, they're not worrying about the inventory count because they're not trying to protect a brand. They're trying to generate fast cash, which is awesome, so they can run their business and build income. So a lot of times that limitation won't restrict you. I am from India. How to remove hijackers. So if you are selling a private label listing, what I would recommend you do, just join Just One Dime and let us help you, because we have a whole cease and desist letter and a procedure you can use to help with that. Now, keep in mind, that's no guarantee. It 100% is going to depend on Amazon and those sellers at the end of the day, but there's a lot we can do to help you with that. Alina, I wish I was calling in from Costa Rica, but I love Austin too, so I'm not. And you're in Austin, so I know you don't mind. Okay, Naz Khan says this: is the buy box for a particular item only? I have a buy box showing against 2 of my items for sale. I'm a very new seller. I haven't sent my products to Amazon as yet. Should I click on the buy? So it depends, Naz. If you're selling arbitrage, you're going to sell on another listing, okay? So in other words, it's a listing already created. So once you sell on there, you'll be one of the sellers. Now the question is, how do I get the buy box? With arbitrage, assuming your account is healthy, most of the time, and of course you're doing Amazon FBA, you're going to have it if you're the lowest price. Would you agree with that, Alan and Saad? Or is there anything you would add to that?
Yeah, for me, when I'm doing arbitrage, the advantage is that I'm doing FBA, because a lot of the things that I have to worry about winning the buy box are covered just because I'm doing FBA. There's only a few little things that I have to worry about, like pricing and things like that. So it's always recommended to do a FBA, especially if you're doing RA or arbitrage.
And also, I would like to add, only there's specific situation that we recommend FBM, only for seasonal items, a product that only sells in specific seasons, or a product that over large sized that you don't know if it's worth it to send it or not. So there's specific situations that you can use FBM, but very rare.
That's good. Lincoln Dark says, can Amazon Warehouse take a product that has no label on it? Lincoln, they cannot. So if you live in another country, then make sure you use a third-party fulfillment center to send that in for you. So you don't have to have it shipped to your house. You can buy it online. They send it in. You do everything from your computer, and you generate cash doing that. But yeah, you do have to have a label on there so they know where to put it in the warehouse. There's no other way to do it apart from that. So there has to be a label. Any tips or hacks on this, Alan and Saad, that you would recommend, especially if Lincoln is selling from a far out place in another country where Amazon does not exist yet?
No, I mean, no labels. Are we talking about FNSQ? A label, if that is very important, we recommend it all the time. And without label, your product is going to be commingled and actually going to get into a lot of trouble. So we don't recommend that. Commingled, basically, if you have a good product and let's say one of the competitors has a bad product and you had the buy box at that time, it has a bin, like a big bin that has all the products in, they just pick up one. If it happens to be your competitor and is a bad one, you're taking the blame for that. So we always recommend FNSQ. Do not do it. It's not worth it.
Yeah, very good. What about fraudulent returns, says M. Jacob. M. Jacob, I'm going to be super blunt, brother or sister. It's just going to happen. Accept it. It will happen. People will often return the product. They'll claim there was something wrong with it when there wasn't, so they can get a refund. It's part of the process. Just consider it. This is part of the cost of doing business. It's going to happen. It happens to all of us. Here's another one, guys. I remember when I was doing Instagram Live a few days ago, a couple people who are crushing on Amazon, they said, some days I just feel like sending a poop emoji to the customer because they're so horrible. I understand that feeling. Some people, they live off of negativity and they're looking for that, and it's sad. But remember, take the higher road. Go ahead and treat them nobly and treat them kindly, and accept the fact that some people are going to take advantage of you. They're going to take advantage of the system. There's no system on earth that is perfectly bulletproof. There will always be a system that has issues. And it's part of the cost of business. You will lose the battle, but win the war. It is not worth getting a negative review simply because you are going to stick up for your rights and prove it, even if you were right. So it's going to happen, but keep in mind, some items have a greater tendency towards more returns than others. So keep that in mind. Let me give you an example. Clothing. I know clothing very well. A great, my wife knows it better, but a huge propensity for returns. Because what if I don't like how it fits? What about the girth? You know, it's too tight. It's uncomfortable. There's so many variables that go into it. So only do clothing, for example, if you're really thinking about long-term building a brand. But if you find clothing that has like, it's simple, it's a t-shirt or something, or maybe it's even a necklace, the chance of someone not liking it is low versus like a dress for a woman that needs to fit a certain way. You can generate cash more quickly. I know Alan has crushed it with shoes. He's done it a lot. Like Alan, he understands feet.
I'm telling my mom, I end up being a shoe salesman.
He understands, guys. You just one look at the foot. There you go. Here's the shoe you need. You're good to go.
Yeah.
All right. Jorge says, I am new to the channel. I'm from Cuba and arrived in the United States 3 years ago. Welcome, Jorge. Congratulations. Habla usted español. I encourage you to check out David Lopez Just One Dime. I'm assuming you speak Spanish. David is from Cuba, and he has a Just One Dime Spanish version of this channel, and it is awesome. It is growing like crazy. In fact, Alan was on that channel earlier today, so because Alan also speaks a little bit, un poquito español. Now, Saad, he speaks a lot of Spanish, let me tell you. Rawan says,
you can see which one speaks Spanish. You can see right away on the picture.
Hey, the next time I go south is Guatemala. You know that, man. The strongest impact is having Amazon as a competitor. You'll lose the buy box, whatever was the price for fulfillment. Would you guys agree with that? Would you say that Amazon as a competitor guarantees you're going to lose a buy box, regardless of the price? What are your thoughts?
It's not a guarantee, but the chances are lower. So you have to be very selective with your product you choose when Amazon have the buy box, and make sure that you have a competitive price. And there's some tricks that basically you can check your Keepa chart and see what's the lowest price that Amazon, had. So let's say, for example, it's $100 and the lowest they ever had is $80. If you're able to get the product and be able to sell it around $70 and still make a profit, yes, I can take a chance on that. But if I see that they can actually fluctuate a lot, I wouldn't take that chance. Amazon now, before we used to capitalize on when they run out of stock, when they are not very good at inventory management because they don't know how to gauge it. So we used to get that spike and we'll be able to capitalize, but now they become a little bit strict. But that's been said, there's tons and tons and tons and tons of product that Amazon is not on them, and we find them daily. So I wouldn't let it.
I was analyzing one product this morning from the lead list that we have, and the product has been selling for $136. Three sellers have been selling for $136 a lot in the last 3 months, and Amazon is selling at $149, and he hasn't had the buy box for the last 3 months. So it is possible. You just have to find those products and analyze them and make sure that that the data shows you that you can compete with them.
That's a great point. I'm sorry, Seth, because that's exactly what we're talking about, the buy box. Remember we said how long have you been selling the product is very important. If you're selling a lot of this product over and over, you have an edge over Amazon, so you will get the buy box. So that's a great example to keep your metrics correctly and make sure you're selling it good.
And everyone, I want to encourage you with something. Do not be intimidated by Amazon. Amazon needs you. They make a large amount of money off of you selling products. So if they enter in a space that you're in, treat them like another seller. Understand, there's some disadvantages, but at the end of the day, they're not out to get you. They're out to make sure they provide amazing service to customers. And if you value that as well, you end up becoming an ally with them instead of a competitor. So don't let it's all up here. Don't let it intimidate you up here. Decide you're building a business long term. Amazon is not your hope. They're a means to an end. Randolph says, does all this apply to Amazon FBA private label people like me? Most of it does. Yes, Randolph. Lincoln says, which website is used to do Amazon arbitrage? Lincoln, I'm going to send you a gift. I'm going to chat below a website that will give you a link that will give you 50 websites you can use for Amazon arbitrage. GOG TV says, hello, I discovered a PPC advertisement tool. If I understand true, it's spend opponent daily budgets. Can you analyze it? PPC Destroyer. I do not recommend it because PPC is not analytical. It is much more strategical, and no software out there can do PPC right. And you will end up losing money or spending way more than you need. I would not recommend a software for PPC. How can you get ungated for a BD category before selling products? You apply for it. They're going to ask you for invoices. Usually it's 3. They're going to ask you for your business plan. They're going to ask you, in many cases, for a trademark, but not always. And you have to apply for it. But I would do this after you've been selling for a while and have a very low order defect rate and have a healthy account. Is there a way of any protection against such customers' investigations? There is in the slideshow that I shared, and I can share that with you guys later as well. Amazon started an investigation, checked the rest of the inventory for the ASIN, made sure every is all right. I lost 7 days being suspended. Brother, I know people lost 6 months being suspended, and today they're doing over 100,000 a month at 30% profit. So I want to think long-term. You are lucky it was only 7 days. You were lucky. Like, there are people 6 months suspended, but they kept going. The reason people keep going is they see the opportunity, and it's massive. And I understand it's frustrating, but I'm glad it was only for that long. All right, let's see. Hello, Steph. Thanks for your video. Seth, I know what you mean. Good to see you. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to post that link down here for everybody, and then we're going to take just a few more questions. There we go. Got it. All right, let's see. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, here's a great question. Mr. Rao Rao, how many percentage profit should we keep? It should be dependent on volume of sale. 30% as a general rule of thumb in arbitrage, 40% for private label, but 30% minimum is what I would recommend. Are there any cases, Saad, where you would be okay with a lower profit margin on arbitrage? What are your thoughts, ma'am?
Yes, this is actually a very good. Usually, we always say 33 to 50, maybe 30% to 50% return is very awesome. But this is for a product that average from, let's say, $10 until $50. Let's say that sells on Amazon. But if you get something higher, like $100, $200, you don't mind making 40 or $50 out of this 200. So your margin is going to be lower, but your value, your money bringing home is much bigger. So in this case, yes, I wouldn't mind selling 2 products that's very hot. Actually, they have 1 item here. I'll show them. For example, we have this Nintendo, Super Nintendo. It's like kind of, it comes in and out of stock very, very, very often. So
yes.
Basically, I buy it for $100. It sells for $170. I'll be making around $40 or $30. I'm okay with that. I don't need to double my money. I don't need to make sure that I make $70 or $80. So specific situation, yes, but most of the time it's all about the value. We give this rule only for beginners, so because a lot of beginners, they like to buy something for $3 and they're happy with making 10 cents or 50 cents. That's not that. We need to double up at least.
Yeah. It takes too long. It takes so long to build a business off of that. Absolutely. Naz says, actually, I'm losing in price on those items that I have a buy box option. Should I just ignore this offer? Would it be wise to do so? So unless you're trying to liquidate because the competition and the inventory saturation is too great and you feel like it's just going to sit there forever and you just want to get rid of it and get some money back, I wouldn't lose out on that. I would check the inventory of your other people listing on there, find out how much they have, look at all the prices and think, okay, based on how many times it's selling a day, and there are tools that we teach to show you how to do that. If you're in the arbitrage course, you'll know this. You can decide, okay, it's going to take me about 2 weeks. 2 weeks I'm going to wait, and then I'm going to make my money, and I'm going to have 30% profit margin when it sells. Now, that's obviously, you have to wait. You can't control the market, but try to think strategically, guys. And one of my favorite principles in arbitrage, and I love it because it applies to every business, is this. You have different money makers, different cash flows of income. Over here, you have the ones that sell really quickly. Right here, you have ones that might say, take a few weeks to sell. And over here, that might take just under 6 months. But if they're all going for you and you're patient and you understand the market, money continually comes in while you're over here hustling, getting more products. And it just becomes now more like a game. Like, I just have to have the right products, put them in the right place, and I will make the cash difference. Let's see. Keep going. What is the new way to launch? Shailene, join our team and we'll help you. Is it Shailene Wooten? The new way to launch. I would tell you what, do this. Share that in the Facebook group and tag me on it. Let's see. Tolstoy keeps emailing. It usually takes them some time. Amazon's been undercutting me on my products. We answered that question. Okay, awesome. Cool. Saad and Alan, I'm going to take one more question because I think this is an awesome question. Why would you do both arbitrage and private label? I would love for you guys to answer the question first, and then I'm going to. This is a great way to close this out. Last question of the day. Great question, Salima, by the way.
In my case, when I learned about Amazon, the first model I learned was arbitrage. So I started doing arbitrage, and I saw the opportunity really fast. I started having success just doing arbitrage. So I kept doing arbitrage, and then probably 6 months later, I started, my goal to start doing private label. So for me, I started doing arbitrage as a bridge to do private label, but my business exploded with arbitrage, and I still do arbitrage up to this day because the margins are great. I like doing arbitrage. I do arbitrage, retail and online, and then I'm doing private label as well. So for me, it's because it's a great business model.
I am exactly the same as Alan. Is the first skill that I learned, and we're not learning as a business model. You're learning a skill. That's every time you go somewhere, you will be able to find it. You'll be able to find a product that you can flip. So it's very hard for you not to say no to it when you know you can flip your money or double up your money. The other thing, you become so experienced at it that you cannot let it go. That's it.
I'm going to answer the question with one word, and that is joy. It's joy. It's the joy of learning how to make money to provide for my wife and my kids and my family. Back when I worked for Apple, I was so tired of feeling enslaved to a corporation that was supposed to, pave your ways. And I decided I'm going to stop depending on other people to do that, and we're going to figure it out on our own. So for me, arbitrage was like boot camp, where, hey, I don't have a lot of money. I need to start somewhere. What do I do? Well, there used to be books on this very wall just lined up. And we just started selling books. We sold not all of them, but most of them on Amazon. We would just find the listing and sell it. And some of these were written in the 1800s. I love old books, but I thought, you know what? Long term, I would rather have the cash to build a business to create freedom and experiences for my family that no one else could do. So for us, it was more just the joy of it and the desire to build something different. If some of you guys are waiting or thinking, oh, should I start? Join Amazon arbitrage training and we'll help you get there faster. Scott just shared, and this is awesome, man. And I didn't know he was doing this much. This is so cool. He became a job member 2 months ago. He did over 9,000 in the last 30 days. That's awesome. Huge congrats to you, brother. That right there, you guys, that's why we do what we do. That brings me joy. Because now we make money in Amazon. Now we teach other people how to do the same thing. And almost every day now, we would get either a Facebook message or an email or a message on Instagram saying, Seth, I just fired my boss. Thank you for helping us, showing us how to do it. That brings me joy as well. So my encouragement to you guys is this. If you're short on capital, you're new to this, jump into the arbitrage course right there. I just chatted it to you, and we'll help you get there faster. One more thought. I love arbitrage because it is a natural pathway into private label. You can find products. Some of our best private label products started as arbitrage. Then we literally redesigned them to our own logo, our own brand, our own unique differentiation. And that turned into eventually a brand that is gated today on Amazon that now generates capital. So it's like a pathway, you guys. But either way, do what you need to do to make income. Don't wait, you guys. Make it happen. And for those of you guys who are in the thick of it, you're going back and forth. You feel like a ping pong ball. You're wrestling here. You lose profit margin here. You gain it here. I just want to say, keep going. Don't give up. Keep going. You can do what it takes. Stand in front of the mirror and say this: I am the only person who can get in the way of my success. No one else. My greatest potential enemy is me. If I can conquer myself, then, oh my goodness, life is so much easier, right? And that is a daily process, isn't it? It's not like one day, oh, I've arrived, I got it. It is a daily process as you learn to surrender and learn, and you become stronger and stronger from the inside out. That's what I love about entrepreneurialism. And it creates bondships and friendships like I've never had before in my life. So much deeper than friends I had at Apple. I love you guys at Apple, but sorry, just one time is better. All right, cool.
First
Guys,
step, you have to go to Costa Rica for a week.
what's that?
First step is you have to go to Costa Rica for a week.
Yes, absolutely. Costa Rica for a week, first thing. Absolutely. Because I couldn't do that were it not for Amazon. I couldn't have taken my family to Costa Rica for a week and enjoy that time with them were it not for that. And by the way, I forget your name, but I just chatted for you a link you guys can use to get 50 websites on where to source for arbitrage. So if you click on that, fill out the form. It's like 2 little boxes you fill out. We'll send you the whole link, and you guys can use those. And hopefully that'll help you guys to do better. Which JAWG class is best for focusing on private label? Roderick, email me at said that just went back. Okay, just email me directly. And one more time, guys, if you do decide to join arbitrage class, boom, we're accepting students right now. All right, guys, have an awesome day. Thank you so much, Saad and Alan, for bringing this super valuable content to people.
Thank you so much for having us,
See you
guys.
guys later. Bye.